Hey man, where my brothers at? Yeah, that's right. Get crunk, get wild, because we're about to take a look at the only black superhero in history. Man, get that gay shit out of here. Now give a whoop whoop.
I'm starting the hashtag Black Panther Challenge, putting my hands to the side of my mouth. I'm screaming to the nines, superhero Static Shock. If nobody responds, whoop whoop, I'm opening fire on everybody in the theater. You don't know who Static Shock is? Fuck out of here.
Yep, today we're gonna finally talk about Kids WB DC series Static Shock. And just to get it out the way now, the hero's name is not Static Shock. It's just Static. Little Romeo lied to y'all. Y'all lied to yourselves. Your childhood is wrong. Static Shock is the gimmick name. Quit calling him that. Don't get it twisted. I called him that too. We're all dumb. So the main reason I've decided to review Static Shock, besides it being requested multiple times, is that most reviews on the show are pretty straightforward and done by white people, which ain't bad, but bruh, we need a real one talking about this shit who just so happens to say nigga a lot. So without any further ado, I'm Ddubman and Review Your Life. Let's go. So let's say hello to Static, a comic book series that debuted in 1993 from the creators Milestone Media, a comic company that specialized in ethnic heroes, and Dwayne McDuffie was the head honcho of these operations, with the homies by his side. Most of their comics in the company based around the fictional place of Dakota. I'm not sure if it's Dakota City or if North Dakota and South Dakota combined together to make a great big Dakota like in the Fairy Odd Parents, but yeah, Dakota. And like most comics in the early 90s, the tone felt real and grimdark. Niggas was getting beat up, there's gangs, guns, the ghetto, shit's wild. The Dakotaverse is what they deemed it, with these underground heroes storming every block, featuring names such as Hardware, Icon, Holocaust of the Blood Syndicate, and Static being the youngest face of their brand. The story of his comic series goes as follows. 15-year-old Virgil Hopkins recently moved to Dakota because his mom wanted him to get him away from a life of crime. But coincidentally, crime eventually found him here too. One day, after being bullied pretty bad to the point of retaliation, Virgil seeks the bully and his gang with the clap clap at the docks one night. And after dropping his decision to use the gun, something even more unfortunate happens. As a police raid on the gang sets off explosives at the docks, causing the Big Bang, and everyone there to be affected with supernatural abilities, creating the hero that we know today, Static. And from that point on, Static took out crack houses and street thugs left and right, making Dakota a safer place. The comic series went on for 45 issues, from 93 to 97. And around the late 90s, DC thought out of all their comics Milestone has produced, Static was sought out to be the most adaptive, so they hit up Warner Animation to make it happen, considering that they were already doing well with their Batman and Superman series. However, changes were to be made before it hits children's programming. McDuffie wanted the show to stay as true as it could be, but it's quite obvious what had to be taken out during that era. The use of guns would have to be less frequent compared to the comics. Rick Stone, named to Richard Foley in the series, who was just Virgil's homosexual friend, is now his best friend, instead of who was originally Frida in the comics, who ends up being a side character in the series. Oh, and he's straight now. Well, kinda due to the earring. Virgil is now 14, a year younger than his comic age, and his super suit went from Eazy-E in a leotard to something even dumber, referencing his suit in the mini comic series Rebirth of the Cool, and so on with other little changes like those, as we continue this video. So with everything wrapped and ready to go, September 23rd, 2000 set the debut date for the show Static Shock on the Kids WB programming block, making history as the first cartoon centered around an African American superhero. Unless Mr. T counts, and people were juking and jiving for years to come, until Proud Family came along, but it was still cool for the time. Static Shock eventually moved to Cartoon Network, the network I remembered it on, the next year, after it premiered. However, it was still behind on the Kids WB schedule, And this move makes the most sense considering that the Justice League was strictly aired on Cartoon Network. I'll explain the relation later. And the last move Static Shock would do after his runtime with Cartoon Network was to Disney XD in 2009. Which is crazy to think at this current time because Static is with DC and this shit was playing alongside X-Men and Spider-Man, products of Marvel. Those were the days. So getting Static's origin of syndication out of the way, let's finally talk about the show itself. This intro and the music going forward in the series is so damn weird and dated. It was produced by Richard WOOP, a composer who worked with several artists beforehand, so Static wasn't necessarily his big break. The background music of the show felt like a mixture of hip-hop and dancehall music, scaling at what feels like 1,000 beats per minute. It isn't bad, but it kinda throws off the vibe of some scenes, you know? They should have just got Timbaland to produce for the show. He makes beats just as fast. Oh, and let's meet the voice actors before I forget. Most of these characters might be new to you, but I'll explain as we go on. Alrighty, so can y'all niggas guess who voices Virgil Hot? It's Phil Lamar. You knew it, I knew it. Come on now. He voices every male black character. Nigga is pretty much a gender bent Cree Summer. What would we do without them? No more black shows, that's what. Richie is voiced by Max Goof. And Sharon, Virgil's sister, is voiced by Michelle Morgan, better known for her role as Juicy, the fat kid in the PJs. She looked good, by the way. Wait, hold up. Aw, man. Only 18 images. Well, let's move on to some villains. We got Hot Streak, voiced by the rap speed talent of Danny Cooksey. Ebon is voiced by Gary Sturgis, known for his pedophile gangster role in Tyler Perry's Daddy's Little Girl. Edwin Alva is voiced by Power Ranger star Kerrigan Mahan, and Rubber Band Man is voiced by Kadeem Hardison. He hasn't done anything notable for my taste, but he was in a different world in Casey Undercover if you care. And for the rest of the characters, we got Daisy Watkins, voiced by Crystal Scales, coincidentally voicing the other kid from the PJs as well. And Frida, who is voiced by Danica McKellar. Last but not least, Robert Hopkins, Virgil's father, is voiced by Kevin Michael Richards. Virgil's father? Oh yeah, I knew I forgot something. The retelling of the Static storyline, it is here that Virgil's mom passed away instead of his dad, which I think is a pretty good call. It was very typical for the time for black kids not to have a father role model, and Robert fits the bill perfectly. Just think of characters like Uncle Phil, for example, and you'll know what I mean. The man runs a community center, for crying out loud. He wouldn't hurt a fly. However, he will yell at you,
"Clean up this room!"
Which brings me to the character Virgil himself, a teenager with the worst fashion sense known to man, with an attitude just as bad. I'm not gonna say he's an annoying character, but just imagine the cockiness of Bugs Bunny and Spider-Man put together. That's pretty aggravating. To prove my point, the lead up to the Big Bang in this series is entirely his fault.
Hey, Frida, looking good. F-stop, you need to brush up on body language 101. Hers says not in this lifetime.
Yo, I know you're not sweating my man Virgil. Keeping Francis off your butt takes too much of my time. Time to go the permanent route, little bro.
Oh man, I stepped into it big this time.
I mean, maybe if you shut up next time, he could literally have a gun pointed to his face and he'll be like, ha, looks like I took a wrong turn in Albuquerque. Just be prepared for an onslaught of wisecracks, bruh. But leading on from the moment of the Big Bang, it's pretty much the same as the comics. Whoever was there was infected with mutant powers, causing the term that they're referred to as metahumans, or the racial slur, bang babies. And our boy Static, being the only hero of the bunch, is now the savior of the masses, because he was raised right. A great majority of the metahumans were gang members anyway, so it's understandable that they had evil ways beforehand. but now they have powers, so it's even worse than before. I mean, just imagine if Virgil wasn't there for the bang. The whole damn state would be in shambles. However, the villain's motivation to do evil things is honestly hilarious. Pretty much the cream of the crop of most superhero cartoons. We have these literal monster looking people stealing money, jewelry, clothes. I mean, look at this nigga. He looks like the Amazing Bulk. You really think that Walmart will let you buy an Xbox looking like that? And none of them ever get away with anything neither, because either their power is trash or their plan is trash. There was a damn Coolio episode where he shapeshifts into an NSYNC member to co-sign for his rap career. Like why? And then we have Kangor over here with his power just having big feet. He doesn't even have his own individual episode, but he still shows up in the intro like he's important or something. I do, however, love the music that plays whenever he's on screen though. Static really doesn't have any arch enemies though. Well, he kinda did in the beginning. It's this billionaire named Alva who originally produced the gas that made him into a hero, but they made up eventually after he saved his son. But the common villains of the series, like Ddubman, the Shadow Man with cornrows, and Hot Streak, Virgil's original bully, don't really serve as a threat considering that they've been defeated easily each time they meet. Rubber Band Man was a recurring villain too, whose motivation was his music career, but him and Static later got along once he got interested in banging Virgil's sister. This dude really named Rubber Band Man though. Brother was T.I. before T.I. That's crazy. I just love this concept of villains feeling inclined to go by a villain name.
You're a bang baby too. Fresh born and ready to play. Even got a new name, Hot Streak.
Call me Ddubman, master of shadow and darkness.
Not very modest, are you?
You can call me Replay.
The name is Slipstream, the leech.
From now on, my name's Boom.
You'll never get away with this, Toonerific Tyreek. I no longer go by Toonerific Tyreek because I have absorbed all the headassery of every black cartoon reviewer, making me now bitch ass nigga man. He eventually faces people who aren't affected by the Big Bang but are still idle threats, but they still get messed up by Static just as easily. But as the series goes on, the whole Big Bang concept just gets weird. Like, you don't even need to be there to be affected, considering that Richie later on in the series gets ultra smarts from it, just by smelling Static's clothes or some shit.
But I wasn't even at the Big Bang.
Yeah, but you were with me right after I got gassed, and my clothes reeked of the stuff. Maybe that's how you got infected and it's been dormant in you all this time. What do you think?
It's as good a theory as we got right now.
More than likely that concept was only extended to get him something to do, but come on now, that's equivalent to, bruh, how'd you get those powers? Hey yo, me and my girl was doing our thing right in the car, and right when I let the window down and let the stank out, boom, now I can transform into a tricycle. Other than Richie, no one knows Static's secret identity throughout the series, besides Shaq. Well, someone else does too, but that will ruin my Shaq joke. So basically, getting all the basic hero stuff out the way, what does this show do in plots, morals, and character development? Well, let me put it simply like this. Season 1 and 2 felt like after school specials, while season 3 and 4 were filled with the action that people grown to love. Later in the years, people started to realize the broad topics the show addressed, like the gun violence and racism episodes, but there's even more than that surprisingly, like dyslexia, helping the homeless, stress, Shaq. The animation kinda reflects this too, as season 1 and 2 are more of a traditional art style, while 3 and 4 are more Batman Beyond, which is coincidental because Static eventually meets Batman Beyond, and Batman from the new animated series, along with the Joker, the Justice League, fucking Superman. God damn, the later seasons get crazy. Plus the animation is all done by the same studio too, so everything is consistent. I surely don't remember the show being this hype, but to be fair, I didn't watch a lot of action cartoons growing up, because if it wasn't this, it could get at it. I have, however, noticed a little pattern between this show and Proud Family though. Brooks W. Smith and Dwayne McDuffie ended up doing the same thing when fleshing out these shows, making a quote-unquote black cartoon for the modern age with life lessons and shit. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but whoo, good thing Boondocks came in to show everyone how niggas actually be sometimes. Or else we would still be getting these bullying is bad black shows. Craig of the Creek is literally killing it right now. And it's made by 2 damn white guys. But disregarding all of this, can someone explain to me why, probably the distributors now that I think about it, they shove so many black celebrities as they can into these shows? Like, why the hell am I seeing Little Romeo back to back in my damn children's programming? Where was Bow Wow? Alright guys, all jokes aside, I went out of my way to watch every single episode of Static Shock because I only had a vague memory of how it went back then. And was I disappointed? Nah, I can't say I was. I have to admit, some of the episodes felt like a chore at times, but I was binging a damn superhero series to be fair. It just felt like Static had nothing to fight for, nothing to keep the edge going to fight forever. Spoiler alert, the effects of the Big Bang don't last forever, but Static keeps his powers after inhaling more gas. The series was unfortunately cancelled though before we could see how the saga continues. We also learn in the series and future series like Justice League Unlimited that Static grows up to keep his powers and become one of the world's strongest. How he gets to that point though is beyond me. But like, where's his love interest? Because he literally has none. Well, there's 2 girls that pop up from time to time, but the show doesn't revolve anything around them. Besides the episode that he went to a B2K concert. This actually happened. I don't know, man. I just got more of the vibe that he was superheroing because it was fun and not anything else. Sure, you can say that it's an avenging story of his deceased mother, but his attitude throughout the series has him reflecting more of the fun side of things as he beats up the baddies. So the comic definitely made this aspect better in that regard. Overall, Static Shock is definitely a cool series, and so is the comic, and we have the late great Dwayne McDuffie to thank for that. And the latest rendition we got of him as of late is his feature in Young Justice, and whether or not a new series or movie would take place starring him is for the future to decide. But I think we all know that next time we see him, he's gonna put a shock to our system. Amen.